Playoff Part 4. Everyone's preparing for Super Bowl 57. We're going to preview the big game. Get on your props. And in this episode of the Dynasty Gambit, let's roll.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is going on? Welcome into the Dynasty Gambit, everybody. I am your co-host. You can find me at FantasyJ77 over there on Twitter. Back as always, right below me, my co-host, VandyGrad92. Brian, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing good. How about you, James? Excited about the Super Bowl and doing a little physical therapy today. It's been a busy day.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. 80 degrees down here in South Georgia, by the way, today. So nice. Just figured I'd rub that in right quick. My man right next to me over here at Sinra says, Kyle Sinra, how are we tonight, sir?
Well, yeah, north of the border, it's south of 0, so I guess 32 for you guys, Fahrenheit. Yeah, it's not quite summer here, although it's a little warmer than maybe we're accustomed to this far north for February, which is great because everything's heating up for the Super Bowl, so perfect timing.
Right. Yeah, the snow is finally melting, and just to get some more snow in about 2 weeks, right? All right.
I mean, I don't know if there's a lot of snow. I don't think it's going to all melt.
Yeah, where you're at, it probably doesn't melt to July, and then it starts going again in August. So, I guess this evening,
for as much as I love to snowshoe, I think that would be enjoyable to a certain extent. But yeah, I'm glad I don't live that far north.
No. Our guest this evening, Zach Pulowski at the Big Pulowski over there on Twitter. Zach, welcome back to the Gambit, sir. How are you this evening?
Thanks for having me back. Good to see you guys as always. Always glad to be here on my Thursday nights when I'm available. You know, there's no other place I'd rather be.
Well, that's what she says, but then she leaves again and he comes back later. Hey, guys, if y'all are liking the content that we put out on Thursday nights, please hit that like, hit that subscribe for us. That will make Jeff a very, very, very happy man. And that's what we like to do is make Jeff a happy man. Let's get into some recap of these last week or so. We had the Senior Bowl. We had the Shrine Bowl go on. Kyle, let's start with you. What did you learn from the East-West Shrine game, the Senior Bowl, and that sort of thing? What did you learn with these two games that just happened?
Well, and I think there are some players that showed out and, could potentially be could potentially raise in rookie rankings. But I think that the big lesson is also who wasn't there. There's a lot of top prospects that didn't play at either the Shrine or Senior Bowl. And I'm hesitant to necessarily raise Tajay Spears, who seems to be one of the biggest risers and one of the biggest winners from the Senior Bowl. I'm not going to raise him above Devon A-Chain, who wasn't at the Senior Bowl, because I think he profiles me as even better prospect. And that's part of the reason why he wasn't at the Senior Bowl, felt confident enough in his draft stock. I've seen A-Chain in a lot of mocks as a second-round pick in the NFL draft, and even in spite of this excellent Senior Bowl week, I don't think Tajay Spears quite gets up to that. So still like him as a prospect, but I don't really want to raise these guys in the Senior Bowl and Shrine Bowl ahead of guys that didn't participate at all.
Yeah, no, I agree. I did 4 or 5 mocks over this past week. And literally going from the first mock to the 5th mock, you saw Tajay Spears go from, late 3rd all the way progressively going up and into the middle of the 2nd round in that last mock. And I'm like, oh my goodness, we are literally overreacting to, basically practice, So I agree with you there. Brian, what did you take away?
I'm right there with Kyle as well. I mean, it's hard to tell. Number one, I mean, everybody has limited snaps anyway during the game, and you really can't tell level of competition because a lot of the better players did sit out. But Evan Hull seemed to have another really good game at the Senior Bowl, so he seemed to be a guy whose stock raised quite a bit. He had a good week of practice, and then he had a good game. So the Northwestern running backs definitely seemed to increase on stock. So, it's hard to ascertain a lot, but, there are some players that benefited, if nothing else.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up Evan Hall, of course, you would be the one to bring up Evan Hall, being the Vandy guy. You know, you Vandy and Northwestern, you super smart kids all stick together. So, Zach, what did you take away from either one or both of the East West Shrine game and the Senior Bowl?
Not much. I don't put much stock into either of these games. Not at all. I know a lot of people get excited. For me, it's, I want to see the guys that I'm big on and high on, verify, validate those opinions. And the same thing if I'm out on a guy, I'm looking for that. But otherwise, no, nothing really. I mean, last year I remember looking at Romeo Dobbs' stat line. That was a guy I was high on coming out of Nevada as a late round dynasty pick. And I've got a guy like that this year. I've got a few in mind that I'm keeping on my radar for those second, third, fourth round picks. But they aren't going to change their stock based on a Senior Bowl or an East-West Shrine game. Like I don't care about that. My opinions are already made up, and the only thing that can change that at this point is team that drafts them, where they're drafted, health, and stuff and then the combine results.
Right. And we're going to talk about some combine stuff here in a minute that came out this week. Well, you kind of went ahead and both Brian and Kyle kind of went ahead and answered my next question, which was kind of who boosted their stock, whatnot. Now, Tank Dell, did he leave after like the Friday practice or Thursday practice? Did he just go ahead and leave and say, okay, I'm good where I'm at? Or did he actually play in the Senior Bowl? Do we remember?
I read a report that he was too short, so no one saw him exiting.
Oh, okay. All right. That's fine.
We don't actually know where he is right now. That could be concerning.
So I don't know how y'all took the Pro Bowl that just happened. I thought it was kind of entertaining. It was a little bit different. But Roger Goodell said Wednesday that the format is here to stay. Flag football, of course. So my question is, was it entertaining for you guys? Did y'all enjoy it? And I mean, I don't know where the chat's at or not, but I would love to hear what the chat has to say about it as well. So let's start with you, Zach. Did you enjoy the Pro Bowl?
Before we jump into that and I answer that question, I did want to just sneak in the guy that, really caught my eye or, kind of validated those opinions. And that was Michael Wilson. He has some injury concerns coming out of Stanford, but I like him as a third round dynasty. I'm looking in this 10, 12-man leagues. That's maybe beginning of the third, late second round wide receiver. But at the same time, with his history of all those injuries and, I believe it was 14 game sample size in college, I don't see him flying up radars too much. And therefore, those are the kind of guys I like to see flourishing in these games or showing some promise. But at the same time, he could look great and he could still do nothing next year in the NFL. But that was the guy I liked the most there. But in regards to Roger Goodell and the Pro Bowl and all that, I mean, do you guys watch it? Do you turn it on at all?
In the background.
I can't even get myself to put it on as background music or anything like it's
well, because they changed the whole format. That's why I had it in the background. I can't watch it the old way.
I have it muted. I actually wanted to see the new format. I was like, oh, let's see how this goes. And it's I understand why they do it, but I'm out. I don't care about there's nothing they can do to make a physical contact sport like football actually matter in an all-star, just kind of casual for fun entertainment game. Like it's unrealistic. So, yeah.
Kyle?
Yeah, I'm about as anti all-star game Pro Bowl as it gets. I think because I watch a ton of sports and I don't like the all-star games for any of them because to me, it's just like, you got all these high-paid athletes to play games that mattered, and then you stick in most sports the middle of the season. I guess here at Pro Bowl's end of the season, a game that just doesn't matter at all. So why bother? Is my thing. I actually enjoyed not really watching sports last weekend. Shrine Bowl, Senior Bowl, Pro Bowl, forget it all. Just
there you go.
Which I do anyway with sports, but relax, not have to worry about a sport, right? Like I mean,
right?
Just do whatever else. Because I know I'm going to be certainly Sunday will be busy this weekend.
We can't forget the namesake of the players as well. I mean, we got to see the awesome Tyler Huntley, in the Pro Bowl.
Oh, you mean the only Pro Bowler from Baltimore?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
But I mean, just like most of the guys that go, the backup to the backup to the backup to the backup.
Really, Patrick
because-
Queen didn't make a Pro Bowl?
Well, I mean,
I'm just sensitive, yeah.
he was.
Probably
Brian,
just
what
he
did
counted
you?
Chicago still because they wouldn't have any Chicago representatives, so they made him count as a Chicago Pro Bowler.
Oh, that's just horrible. That's horrible. Roquan Smith too.
I know Zach
Brian,
and I love ripping on the Bears.
There's never enough opportunities for that.
right. Brian, did you take away anything? Did you enjoy the Pro Bowl? Anything at all?
It was okay. It was definitely background noise on Tuesday. I have a consult for cataract surgery, and let's just say that I decided to take my contacts out during the game and listen to whatever was going on in the background. And unless you're a Big Ten basketball fan, a lot of their games were earlier that day. So, honestly speaking, I don't know that it was competing against anything, and I don't think they've made any new movies like Heidi to interrupt stuff. So, I just went ahead and background noise, and it was okay.
That Heidi joke was over a lot of people's heads. There, we're too old for this.
we must be, yes.
Yeah. Moving on real quick. The NFLPA executive director Demarius Smith has come out and said they should do away with the NFL Combine. Basically saying they don't go there to see the players athletically. They already know what that is, what their speeds are, what their jumps are. They already know all that information. It's just a way to kind of embarrass the kids with the idiotic and stupid questions that some of these teams come away with. And then for each one of the 32 teams to have their own medical staff, prod, whatever, and then just to try to knock down the draft stock. So I don't think that the NFL Combine is going to go anywhere. Maybe some changes to it, but
because they make too much money off it.
Well, yeah, but what is your takeaway to what the Players Association is saying about the Combine itself?
It's interesting because these aren't actual NFL players yet as part of their union. And
right, and that's part of it is that. So he's saying they have to waive basically all of their medical rights right when they walk in the door.
Which, I mean, is you're kind of basically doing that when you sign up to play any professional sport anyway, because your medical information will be put out there for bettors and sports betting purposes anyway. It's just strange to me because usually the NFLPA is very interested in current players, veterans. They're not so concerned with the rookies. So I like that because probably who's ever at the head of the NFLPA, they're a former player, right? Like it's not like you have rookie representatives that haven't been players before. So as opposed to just kind of, separating the league, okay, rookies and veterans, right? Like it is trying to, lend a hand, look out for these future players that will eventually be your members. So, kudos to the PA, which generally tends to stick to just, doesn't really care about what happens with the rookies. All they care about is the veteran players, because that's usually a lot of all the seating members are veteran NFL players. So naturally they would act in their own self-interest. So it seems like it's let's take a global look at all the players, not just the veterans who are tenured within the league.
Yeah, that's a great point. I hadn't even thought about the fact that they usually don't even recognize not just rookies, but the players that aren't even in the league yet. So, Brian, anything on that?
Well, like you said, I don't anticipate it actually going anywhere. It's become such an event that it'll still be going on, I think. But theoretically, with senior days for for all the major college teams and all that, they could get the exact same stuff from the Combine as do it during senior day. But I don't see it going somewhere. And it's kind of like the All-Star game the other day when there was nothing competing against it. They do it late February, early March during the week a lot of times. And so, there's really nothing to compete against. So any sports junkie might watch a little bit of it anyway. So why should it go anywhere?
And to the comment you made, Jay, of like asking like really inappropriate and stupid questions to players, truthfully, imagine if because all these interviews are broadcast for everyone to see, right? And we get all access to a lot of it. Imagine if we didn't get that view and it was all just one-on-one backroom conversations. How many more stupid questions would come out that are even worse? Well, yeah, there's some pretty bad ones over the years, but I'd imagine they push it further if they're not viewed publicly asking the question. Like there's less accountability there. So I think the Combine, if anything, it kind of forces it to be more out in the open. And I mean, still, it clearly hasn't stopped teams from not asking stupid questions. And I'd imagine like getting rid of it and having each team away from the cameras do it would just encourage the stupidity.
Right. Zach, anything to add on this?
I don't see it ever happening, unfortunately. I would like to see them get rid of it. I don't really think there's a purpose. Personally, if you ask me, if you're trying to inquire info, even if it's on more of an interview basis, you're going to find out more, going to their homes, going to their hometowns, going to their college campuses, interviewing those closest to them, just like any background check or anything like that. And I'd rather focus on it more then rather than, handing them a book and seeing what his answers were 2 days later after flipping through our script or something like that. So, there's a lot of the aspects there, especially even in regards to the physical training. I mean, I understand the benchmark set, like the 40-yard dash, the vert, the long jump. Like, I understand why they have those there, but at the same time, we have plenty of other opportunities throughout the year to be conducting those. It just makes no sense. It's just another opportunity for these players to get hurt. If you want to break it down to something so simple and small, that's what I'd hold on to. And that's where I'd be like, realistically, any less time on the field out there, explosive movements or anything like that, the better, especially when their whole careers are ahead of them for all of these guys. And we already have all the sample size we need from their college days.
Yeah. And we've had the injuries on the field in Indy, 2 years ago, or even last year, I think we had one where I got a defensive end or something, blew out a knee or something along those lines.
And then he fell. Like, he was supposed to go potentially top 5, top 10. And I think he ended up going to the end of the first.
And so normally when these guys come out and make these takes like this, I usually take offense to it because it's usually like, okay, whatever, you're just making crap up, or you're not coming with a resolution. And so later on in the conversation, Demarius Smith says they shouldn't have the combine, but what they should have is more of a regional kind of combine deal where it's a couple teams, almost like a
bit of a
day.
job fair type of feel,
right? But almost like a pro day, but
yeah.
have a southeastern pro day kind of deal where you got all, whatever, 20 schools, 30 schools come together kind of thing. So at least he had, not only his argument on why to get rid of it, but he also had somewhat of a resolution or an idea of how to fix it. So I did appreciate that. All right, guys, we came here for one reason and one reason only tonight, and that's to talk Super Bowl.
Dan wants to rant about America some more, which
let's talk.
Did anyone watch the props, the B League Pick and Prop show this week? He had his American geography rants.
Yeah, I did, and those rants though, B League's rants are just phenomenal,
Hey, unfortunately, B League, you can't really do combines when most of the players are signed by the age of 12, and sports like soccer.
Agents aren't allowed to do that. So.
Messi. Leo Messi's combine at Barcelona. I don't know if
exactly.
How that went.
Yeah, when he was 9.
All right, so I looked at a few sites going over like the player prop sheets and that sort of thing, and I fell on one, and this is the one I went with is fantasyalarm.com /contest/big game, and this has got novelty and football props on it, and it's free to enter, of course. So that's the one I wanted to ride with tonight. We'll talk about most of those. I'm going to run a sheet with it. It's a free game, so I'm going to throw my picks in, or throw our picks in there as one, and we'll go from there. We'll also talk about a couple of other props as well. I know you guys got some favorite ones out there. So first question, who's going to win the big game? Right now you got Philadelphia is favored by 1.5. Over under on DraftKings is 51, so it was at 50.5. Now it's at 51. Money line is a plus 105 to Kansas City and a negative 125 to Philly. So let's just go there. Who's going to win the game? Zach?
I'm betting on the best QB. I am. Every part of me wants to say the Eagles, but I want to put my money on the best quarterback. Hurts has looked like it all year, though. I mean, don't get me wrong. Hurts has been great when healthy. I love that offensive line. I love the weaponry around Hurts. I love that defense. I mean, there's plenty of reasons to love both these teams, but I'm putting all my money on the Chiefs and Mahomes. I want to depend on the guy that is the best in the league, and that's all there is to it.
Yeah, I was thinking about it today as I was driving around, and I was like, Philly should win this game. They should actually win this game. They get a top 3 defense, a top 3 offense, so they should win this game. But then you think about it, you're like, but then you're betting against Patrick Mahomes, who, by the way, has no real weapons other than Kelsey. And he's still the best quarterback in the league, even on one foot. So yeah, it's hard to go against. It's hard to go against Mahomes. Kyle, who are you taking in this game?
Yeah, I'm with Zach here, going the Chiefs. Before the season started, my Super Bowl prediction was Chiefs. I think it was Buccaneers. That didn't go so well, but yeah, I've been saying it before the season started. I thought the Chiefs would win the Super Bowl. So this close to it coming true, I'm gonna keep sticking with them. And one thing that researching and looking at the offensive line numbers, as excellent as Philly's unit is, the Chiefs might actually have the better offensive line. Certainly, I think it's at a point where neither line is a weakness for these teams. Like I said, if the Chiefs have any weakness on offense, it's just their lack specifically at wide receiver. Looks like Juju, looks like he's full practice participant, like off the injury report. So he should be good to go, if not 100% close to that. I think Tony's questionable, and then Hardman's on the injured reserve. So it's funny how you had all 3 players kind of questionable going into the weekend. You've had like 2 opposite end of extremes of, okay, Juju's been completely removed from the injury report, and Hardman's completely removed from the active team because he's on injured reserve. And then
I've seen video of Tony running around like a madman at practice, so he doesn't seem to be hurt at all. So
looks like the expectation is he's going to play. So
yeah. Well, I just told you the over under on DraftKings is 51. So the options that is happening over here on Fantasy Alarm is 49.5. So over under 49.5.
That one's tricky because, does Brian want to answer his? I'm
sorry, Brian.
First, now that he's back.
Brian,
sorry guys, I had to pop off momentarily there.
Who are you
So
taking,
the
Chiefs or Eagles?
Still, who am I taking? Right.
Yep. Chiefs.
I'm taking the Eagles minus 1.5. Only because I feel like they've got a better defense. I agree with Zach there about the better quarterback, but he's had ample opportunities already, and he's only won 1 Super Bowl. So I'm going to go with a newbie and go with the Eagles.
Very, very fair. All right, so over under
Jay.
I took the Eagles preseason, so I've got to stay with the Eagles. But like I said,
smart.
Like I said, I'm building a Gambit card. It's not a Jason card. So the card is already the punch hole is already hit on Kansas City Chiefs for this card. I'm being 100% fair on this. It's not my picks, it's our picks. So, 49.5 over under right here. Let's go with Brian first on this one.
I'll go over on this one. I see the final score being 28-24 Eagles.
Oof, you're not far off what I've got. I got 27-24. So, Zach?
Well, I'm taking an over, and I'm going to probably be doing some alternate overs and probably going to do some same game parlays where I get a little creative and throw those alternate overs in with, some Chiefs alternate spreads or that kind of thing. Get a little creative, but I think it's going to be high scoring. I'm thinking 60 plus.
Ooh. Kyle.
Well, actually, I have a question for Zach. On those Chiefs alternate spread, how far are you willing to push? Because I assume you'll push it to where you get them as favorites, right?
Oh yeah. Oh no, they're favorites. They're favorites. No.
Are you going because I was listening to a podcast, they were saying like 2.5 is probably a sweet spot.
That's what I was going to start you at.
The Chiefs is 2.5 point favorites. You win by the field goal, you still get it.
No,
and
exactly.
It's still enough.
2.5 or so. I did 2 of them. I did 2.5, and then I did just the over under.
Okay.
Or actually, no, sorry. I did Chiefs money line. I took it safe as possible and just the over of the straight up over under. And then I took the 2.5 Chiefs. And then I took an alternate spread, not as aggressive, not the full 60. And then I went 6.5 Chiefs. And then I went 60 plus.
Oh, okay.
But
Oh, wow.
yeah,
Really pushing
so I
it
did
over.
3.
Yeah.
But I think it'll be 60 plus though. That is actually what I'm expecting. But it's still, I like to have my like tiered layers of, obviously if the Chiefs lose, I lose all 3 of them. But within it, I like to have some safer options as well.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I'm just
I
looking
actually,
at the numbers on DK, and a 2.5 right now is a plus 116. So that's not a horrible deal there.
it's funny because I kind of agree with Dan mentioning the lower. Just because I think both of these defenses are so good that neither offense will be able to just run away with it, and it'll kind of keep both teams in check. I don't think you can shut down either of these offenses, but you can kind of slow down. And I think it'll just ultimately fall short of the, when I was seeing a lot of 50.5, it seems like it's gone up to 51 now finally after maybe like a week straight of it not moving at all. But especially if it's going to keep going higher, I'm pushing the under even further.
I can see it being at like somewhere around 52.5, maybe even 53 before game time. But I run I'm on the Dynasty or Fantasy Intervention on Wednesday nights, and I had Jeff on last night, and we were having this very same discussion about this point spread, or the over under there, and Jeff, I believe, took the under at 51 as well. But he wasn't I don't think he was willing to go too far below that. You know what I mean? It was like, that's where I'm looking at 49.5. I think I'm going to go over on 49.5 because, again, like I said, I think it's going to be a 27-24 game. That would put me right at what, 50,
right at 51.
51. So, yeah, I'm going to take the over there.
I just want to just read out Dan's comment for anyone not watching. He mentions that what we were talking about, Philly slowing the game down by running, and that's kind of why he's taking the under. Defense is elite and can keep drives to 3 instead of 7 as well. So a good red zone defense is here.
Yeah, and I don't know if this is going to be on this sheet or not, but Buckner over, and usually for the kickers it's usually 1.5 on field goals. I would definitely be looking at getting the over on that as well. To Dan's point that they hold them to 3 and instead of giving up touchdowns all the time as well. National anthem. Here we get into a couple of these fun ones here. National anthem over under 121.5 seconds. And like I said to Jeff last night, it's Chris Stapleton that's going to be singing it. For those who don't know, country artist.
Oh, it's not Rihanna, right? Okay,
right.
I was thinking Rihanna, but yeah,
it's going to be, and this is why I'm clarifying that way you can think about your answer here.
Because I was going to say, like, she'll keep it like an R&B anthem, and she'll keep it quick. Like,
so
but, I mean, she can belt some notes and hold them too.
Traditionally, country artists, sing the song more traditional, keep it down a little bit.
Not as many melismas. They're
right now. Chris Stapleton does have some where he can draw it. He can draw it out with like Tennessee Whiskey and certain songs. I also think he is going to have his own guitar, so it's not going to be piped in music. So he may be able to strum the chords a little bit more and play with it, a little bit. Just keeping that in.
Do we know if he's got a click track going with the, or is he just keeping the pulse himself?
Here is something that I heard today that I'm just going to pass this on. Hopefully you don't have these crazy props already put in yet, but on SiriusXM, I believe it was on Fantasy Life today, one of the guys from Sports Illustrated was on, and he was actually at the rehearsal, the 2 rehearsals that Chris Stapleton's already done. And he spent at 2 minutes, 4 seconds on the dot on both of them.
You said, what was the over-under on it again?
121 seconds.
Yeah,
so 2 minutes,
I agree with
1 second. Yeah,
I agree with Jeff's question. Does it include the guitar lead-in, or is it just the vocals?
Well,
I think it has to include the guitar lead-in because rarely ever does an anthem start with the voice. It always will start with the instrumentals, and that'll still count to it. So
yeah, I just need the fine print. Got to make sure.
Yep.
Do an 8-bar vamp, and that'll certainly get you like a couple sections over.
Just,
right.
just
well, if it was like
pause.
John Cougar Mellencamp or somebody like that, that's gonna play for a half hour and then start the song. That's one thing, but. I think it's going to be. I'm going on the over there. I think last night, Jeff took the under because of all the worrisomes that everybody's going to be on the over. So Jeff just wanted to be contrarian and go to the under. I think.
is either giving plus money. I'd assume it with the 50-50 ones, they're both negative money.
Yeah, I'm gonna assume that everything is on even money. I'm not looking at a book. I'm just looking at the sheet on Fantasy Alarm. So
well, it's funny and glad for Jeff to pop in for the prop show. I mean,
that's right.
Propping us up with our viewership, perhaps. But,
yep.
Yeah.
Well, and then he's doing his DFS props tomorrow night, if I'm not mistaken. And I think the B League is going to join him over there.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, I think so. I think so.
And so either we get Dan on the show, or Dan will just complain about it on his next show. Either way, it'll be entertaining. So
he's going to complain about it whether he's on the show or not.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, Jeff's either doesn't have the music or he doesn't have, he doesn't give him enough time to talk.
I almost want to play the intro music again just to show Dan what the intro music is.
Yeah, we got to get a training lesson with Dan on the where the intro music is.
So Jeff said under, and I think this is about the anthem time because because Chase said they told him to keep it short to save time.
Yeah,
he will do an FU and make it long.
Okay. That's what Chase Vernon was saying last night, and you know, but it's very possible, but I don't think he's that type of person. You know, I don't think Chris Stapleton is that type of person.
If you're getting paid this much money to be at the Super Bowl, you're probably going to follow what they tell you to do, right?
Wait. None of these musical acts get paid for this, for the Super Bowl. None of them. No, they do not. The NFL does not pay them.
Well, the NFL doesn't, but it's not Pepsi this year. Whoever the sponsor is will pay them.
But they may, but they basically they're not getting paid by the NFL. It's basically an invite, you accept or you don't, and they move on. So yeah, I didn't know this until about 6 years ago that the acts do not get paid. They only do it by sponsorship. Yeah, right there.
Well, yeah, and again, that's whoever's normally it's Pepsi halftime show. This year I think they changed it though. It's no longer Pepsi the main sponsor, but I assume Pepsi is paying whoever's performing and organizing.
Apple,
yeah.
Apple Music is.
Oh yeah, because Apple's. Oh yeah, actually, never mind. Apple won't because Apple doesn't like paying their artists.
Right. So, all right, let's go around the horn real quick. Brian, are we going over under on Chris Stapleton singing the national anthem 121 and a half seconds?
I'm going over, and I'm glad you mentioned Tennessee Whiskey because that's his most familiar tune. And he likes to draw that one out from being from Tennessee. Definitely going over.
It's a staple tin of his. Sorry.
I'm glad you guys know his songs because I had no clue who he was. But with that in mind, I'm going over. I have nothing to base it off except for what you told me tonight because, well, like I said, I've never heard of him before. So I'll trust you guys. I'll trust that he's going over. We're going over all the way across the board. It's going to be over points, over on seconds for this, over for anything Rihanna as well.
I think Zach saw that Jeff was throwing the under. So Zach saying, I'm going to throw the FU to Jeff and I'm going over.
Oh, I mean, wasn't intentional. I mean,
Don't worry.
Wasn't trying to pick that as my time to give an FU to Jeff, but I mean, I'll always take another. Jeff knows that's my sign of saying I love you.
That's right.
I didn't even know he was doing the anthem until we were live on the show. I thought it was Rihanna. So not only do I don't even know who he is either. So I don't even want to Google him.
Yeah, as I say, Jeff didn't know. He had to go Google him.
Our two Southern boys know. That's all that matters.
Right. That's right.
Oh, I'm a huge fan. His father had kidney disease like I do, so I'm a huge fan of his.
Does he have any songs with Meek Mill or Drake? Maybe I'll listen to him then.
No,
but otherwise,
not yet.
Well,
although
Cyrus did that Old Town Road collab that opened up the.
He's probably
country,
written a lot of those. He wrote a lot of songs before he started actually.
I'm assuming Jay could actually sing a couple of bars of that one, couldn't you?
Yep. Which one?
Tennessee Whiskey.
I probably could if I was drunk enough.
He's got it behind him. He's got it behind him.
It's all right there. All right, so the first company, what company will have the first car commercial? We have options. We have Ford, GM, which is okay. Anybody that wait till I read all these off, and then we'll make fun of Fantasy Alarm for this. Is it Ford? Is it GM, BMW, Kia, or Chevrolet? GM and Chevrolet are the same company, guys. So
I think he meant to say Chrysler. They meant to say Chrysler, right?
Well, I mean,
isn't that the
Chrysler is part of General Motors. So that's It is what it is.
But there's a third, right? There's a third big three. Like, what's the other big three of American?
Yeah,
I thought it was
Dodge. I'm sorry, that's what Chrysler is. Dodge.
Yeah, right. I always mix up Chevrolet and Chrysler,
Well,
even though
they give you the option.
My car is
got
a Chevy. I still get them mixed up. So I think I'll forgive Fantasy Alarm for
I know.
mixed up.
I'm just giving Howard a hard time. You got Ford, Chevrolet, General Motors, Kia, BMW, or other.
I'm thinking of budgets, right? Like, you want the first commercial, you're probably paying big. So I think it's BMW.
It doesn't mean not the very first commercial, just the first car commercial.
Well, yeah, but I mean,
Okay.
of these, like, if you probably want to earlier slots get more money because they're the first commercials, and like, knowing BMW, the luxury car company, they probably have the slightly bigger budget to be able to do that and gear towards that. So I have no idea anything about cars. BMW might be the most welfare version of all these companies anyway, and I have no idea, but I think they're a bit more.
I've got a little theory to run with off of what Kyle was saying, because I agree. That's what I was thinking off the bat was the most money. I want to go that way. I'm thinking Kia, though, actually. The more I think about it, I'm going that route because I actually think the bigger money and more expensive slots are actually at the end of the game. Obviously, you think, oh, when you start, that's when you have the most viewers. Well, realistically, it's something like the Super Bowl. People are tuning in the most later, halftime, and then a second half from there. That's usually when people aren't over at the food table or playing any games or screwing around with whoever's at the Super Bowl party they're attending to. So I'm thinking, hey, second half is probably the big money ones.
Did we talk about our sponsor Underdog yet, by the way?
That's it. We were going to that yet next. And you know what's crazy is B-League pops in. We just, you know what Jeff needs to do is, instead of getting Dan music, he needs to just give Dan the mic so that he can just cut a promo, and then we'll use that in every freaking one. Just like he puts the music in, we'll just use that. You'll just click that. Okay, let's do promo time. Boom. And we got the promo pimp over there.
Look at Jeff talking about Kia. People aren't watching the Super Bowl. How he's already forgetting about the hamster commercial. That was one of the best ones from a couple years ago. Come on now. Oh.
Yeah, apparently BMW is more civilized, so they'll go early. The drunk people in the second half are Ford and Chevy or Chrysler drivers.
Could be like a Subaru Palisade or something. They're probably too small.
Brian, where are you going with the cars?
Apparently Doritos will be the first car company because, nothing drives like a Dorito chip.
Hey, if they've got a Doritos fueled car.
Well,
so before you read the options, I actually already had my mind on BMW, so that just definitely made it for sure the BMW. So
all right, we'll go with BMW. All right, what's the first beer/seltzer commercial after kickoff? Budweiser, Heineken, White Claw, Coors, Michelob, or Michelob Ultra, or a different one?
I'm going to say head for the mountains. Coors.
Okay. All right.
For some reason, I want to say Heineken, just because I feel like I see Heineken sponsoring so much sports-wise that they'll get maybe, again, early slot. But maybe Zach's right. Maybe the early slots aren't the popular ones. Maybe they push it towards the end. But I'd assume most of these companies are going multiple commercials anyway.
Right.
So one early, one late. So yeah, I'll go Heineken just because I tend to see them as a very favorable sports sponsorship company, alcohol wise. I guess most of them are.
Zach, you got a choice on this one?
Bud.
Okay, so I think it's going to be Budweiser as well, but I'll throw one at you just because of location, thinking about where it's at in Arizona. Modelo. That might be one. Just
I have no idea why that means anything.
Because it's a Mexican beer and it's on the it's made, actually, if I'm not mistaken, it's actually made in Texas. And with it being as close, regional wise, but I think Budweiser is the answer there. First sports book to have a commercial after kickoff: DraftKings, FanDuel, PointsBet. Hopefully, it's not the one where Breeze is getting burned. Caesars, MGM, or other.
I mean, I don't mind seeing Breeze get burned. Man, there have been a ton of the Jamie Foxx Bet MGM commercials on, and just like every sporting event. I'm kind of maybe leaning that one just because you know that they're gonna, if they're gonna have the big budgets and pay, you're gonna get Jamie Foxx back on and do a long extended one. So I think I'll go bet MGM.
Yeah, I like Dan's thought process here. Doritos and Modelo together, do it as one. Brian, what you got for the sports book?
I got MGM here.
MGM.
Before you read off the options again, I had that in mind, so you popped it up, so I'll go with it.
Zach?
I am going with Caesars, just like what B-League said. They're the official sponsor.
Yep, I was leaning that way as well. I like what the they with the Manning brothers, what they've done it's been absolutely funny as hell.
I want to see another commercial where Eli's like, "What?" He's like, "How is that even the answer? That's 37 words." You know? I need some more of that.
Yeah, with Cooper in there. Snack food commercial: Doritos, Pringles, Popcorners. I have no idea what that is. Planters and Cheetos. I mean, I think the obvious is Doritos because that used to be when you look at college football, that's the home of the Tostitos Fiesta Bowl, which is the Tostitos and Doritos are the same company.
Well, it's funny because I think my favorite Super Bowl commercial ever is a Doritos commercial, so I'm naturally inclined to go with that. Cause like the only, I don't remember any other ones ever being in the Super Bowl, but I'm sure.
Right.
Yeah, I'm usually at the food line, but I'll go with Doritos on this one.
Zach?
I'll go with Doritos.
Doritos, it is. That's clean sweep.
I mean, they're all under the same Frito-Lay tree, so.
All right, so here we go with the fun ones. Rihanna's first song. Like I said earlier, I got a little insight on it from the little birdies over there on Sirius XM Fantasy. And it sounds like there's going to be like a 10-second intro. So that's where I wonder, is the 10-second intro, what's my name? Does that count, even though she's not singing? Or is it the first song, which allegedly is supposed to be Bitch Better Have My Money? So the options are Umbrella, We Found Love, Where Have You Been, What's My Name, Don't Stop the Music, or another song.
Umbrella.
I'm going to, yeah, I don't know, Umbrella. That one's going to be
Umbrella
so
would be amazing if you brought Jay-Z there, and that's how the show started, was Jay-Z's rap to get the crowd hype and then bring in Rihanna, and that's her set. Like, that would be amazing, but I don't think Jay-Z is going to the Super Bowl. So,
but I mean, we weren't.
Did you check his itinerary?
50 Cent. We weren't expecting 50 Cent.
That's true.
Right.
Along with some of those other big names they had listed last year. And for me, I'm looking at someone like Jay-Z, and if Rihanna's going to bring someone else out to co-star in a sense, I feel as if she would do it off the bat rather at the end. Kind of
final performance, right? Yeah.
And I think honestly, I think the final song that she's going to have, or part of the song or whatever, and when she's walking away, just because of what they can do, with TV and the look of it, is going to be Diamonds. Where they got all the bling flashing all over the place. They've got those bracelets and everything. So I think that would be the last song of the night if that was an option to choose.
I was going for the irony of the "Please Don't Stop the Music" would stop the concert.
Right.
Like that'd be the last one. But yeah, maybe
I don't know. I want to whip through a couple of these. So what we'll do here is I'll just ask the question, ask one of you guys, move on to the next question for the next 3 or 4, and see if we can't pick up a little bit of pace on these. Coin toss, heads or tails, Zach?
Heads.
Heads. Who wins the coin toss? Zach, Brian, Philly or the Chiefs?
Chiefs have to win something. Chiefs
have to win something. Brian, who's going to score first, Philly or the Chiefs?
Chiefs.
Andy Reid, 2 weeks to prepare. Yeah, I think he's going to have a game plan. Something interesting right off the bat. I agree.
Kyle, what jersey number will the player who scores the first touchdown be? Will it be over 11.5 or under 11.5?
I think I'm going to go over 11.5. Yeah. Thinking it's the Chiefs. It's could be Kelsey. Oh, I guess Pacheco's 10, right? That'd be the two favorites. So you got one on each side of that. Yeah. There's more numbers above
AJ Brown.
There's more numbers
11.
above 10 than below 10. We'll go over. Trust the math.
Yep. AJ Brown's 11.
Okay.
Zach, who's gonna
Right
who's
on
gonna
the
be
line.
leading at halftime? The Eagles, Chiefs, or will it be tied?
Chiefs.
Chiefs at halftime. How many passing yards will the Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes throw for? Over under 287.5. Kyle.
Yeah, I looked this up. He hasn't hit 300 yards in either of his Super Bowls so far, but he's been right around there, 280, 290. So 286 and a half,
287.
287 and a half. I think that's low enough. I think there's room between that and 300. I think he'll be probably around 295. So I'll go over.
All righty. How many touchdowns passing and rushing will Kansas City Chiefs quarterback Patrick Mahomes have? Brian, 2.5 over under.
Over.
Over 2.5.
Yeah.
All right. How many rushing yards will Kansas City? How many rushing yards will the Chiefs running back Isaiah Pacheco have? 52.5 over under. Zach.
Under.
Under. Ooh, that's a rough one there. How many receptions will Travis Kelce have? 6.5 over under. Kyle.
It's funny because the prop line I saw was a little higher than that at
Yes.
7.5. So 6.5. I like that to take the over.
Take the over. How many passing yards will Jalen Hurts have? 242 over under. Zach.
Over.
Over. And how many rushing yards will Jalen Hurts have? Over under 47.5. Brian.
I'm going to go under.
Under. All right. We cut out a good bit right there. We'll get back into actually breaking some of them down, and we'll see how far we can get. Thanks, guys, for doing that. How many targets will Devontae Smith get? The over-under's at 6.5. Start right here with Zach. What are we seeing for Devontae Smith and his targets in this game?
Yeah, over.
Over. Anything on that?
I'm seeing 7 or 8 for him and AJ Brown. You know, I'm looking at Brown and Smith to be utilized a lot. I'm looking at Kelce and probably either MVS or one other option in the passing game. But
yeah, I think the key word in the question though is targets. It's not completions.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So I think that makes it
6,
easier, right?
Like, yeah, I expect 6 receptions from Brown
right.
and Smith. So that's where, you know, I'm expecting more closer to 8 for, you know, the top 2 options in both offenses. So I like that number for him. I'm going over.
To credit Zach, like, you know, Devontae Smith, I think his reception line is set at 5.5. So if you think he's getting close to that, he's probably getting at least 7 targets.
Right.
So yeah, I like that, Zach.
Brian, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I like the secondary options here in this game being Goddard and Smith. So I would definitely go over as well.
Okay. Awesome. How many receiving yards will AJ Brown have? The line is set at 70.5 over under. Let's go over here to Kyle.
Oh, me, right?
Yeah. That guy right next. The guy behind you.
Oh, what do you want, dude? No, knowing I was again listening to Dan's prop show, which was live yesterday on the Going for Two Live network. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube. He mentioned he really liked AJ Brown at the over. I think that was even. I think when he mentioned it was like 72.5. The truth is, AJ Brown hasn't even hit 30 receiving yards in a game yet. So I think I'm going lower.
Brian?
I'm actually going under because I like the secondary options better this game.
Yeah. You mentioned it with Smith and Goddard. That's true.
Yeah. Anything to add on to that, Zach, with
Nope.
AJ Brown over under? So you're going to go under as well?
It's just too close of a line. I want to go over there as well. Like, I really am trying to look at the primary top 2 options for both offenses, and I'm very interested in maybe combining those with those parlays like I talked about earlier for the over. So that's where I'm looking at Brown, I'm looking at Smith, I'm looking at Kelce. Those are the big 3 for targets that I'm like targets, receptions, yards. I'm fairly confident, but Brown's is just right in that zone where, you know, 70 to 90 is kind of what I'm expecting, but mainly due to the fact of AJ is such a great wide receiver, but part of the issue with that is they have to focus more on him, and it opens up more for Devonta Smith. So sometimes there's those games where Devonta is eating, and not so much for AJ. And that's my only concern there. But, if I'm going off of talent alone, I would still feel fairly confident that he's going to go over.
Okay. Over under 1.5 rushing touchdowns for the Philadelphia Eagles as a team. Brian.
I'm going over here because I don't think I've got to score 28. So that's 4 touchdowns. So I don't think Hurts is getting
this
3
is
passing.
Rushing.
This just rushing as a
just
total
rushing,
for the entire team. Okay. Yeah, I kind of like the over there as well.
Yeah, I mean, I do too, because
so good at scoring rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, you can almost bank that Hurts is going to get one, and Miles Sanders has been good over the last few weeks. Gainwell's been good over the last few weeks. Maybe not getting into the end zone, but they're rushing the ball pretty good. Zach, what do you got to add to this?
Yeah, I'm going over. I know I'm expecting a lot of passing, but I'm expecting more volume in regards to passing, trying to score often, but mainly trying to get down the field. In the red zone, I'm still anticipating a lot of, sneaks or creative play calling. We'll see what they scheme up. But yeah, I mean, 1.5 touchdowns, that seems fairly passive, from Vegas. I'm surprised there. I would expect, I don't know, 2.5 feels a little too aggressive too, though. Yeah, I get it, but I like the over there.
Yeah, I agree. Which team will have the first coach's challenge, or will there not be a coach's challenge? Let's go to you, Kyle.
I think the Chiefs, because it seems like in the Bengals game, they challenged, I think, on the opening drive. So if something comes up and they're not sure about it right away, like it seems like Reed will have the confidence to just make that challenge right away if they think it'll impact it. So
somebody on that Chiefs staff has got to take the red flag away from Andy Reid. He just likes dropping it on the field. I mean, I don't know. And then it just, if it happens in the first drive, it's a snowball effect for him when it comes to clock management.
He's got a threshold of what he thinks is challenge worthy, and then from there
there's certain things. I mean, that early in the game, nothing is going to determine the outcome, whether it's the right call or bad or wrong call, unless it's a touchdown, of course. But those get reviewed anyway.
I mean, I'm sure Kyle Shanahan wishes he reviewed the Devontae Smith catch early in the opening drive last week, because that probably really impacted things.
Well, there is that, but I don't think it determined the outcome of the game. That's where Andy Reid, I think, with his botched time management on a lot of these games, that probably should have caught. If it wasn't for Patrick Mahomes, it would have cost any other team.
That's what gives him confidence, right? Like if I mess this up, Mahomes can kind of bail us out. I think that's why he's been so aggressive at making the challenges, especially in the first. Because the thing is, you're probably better off challenging in the first half, because if you lose the timeout, that those first half timeouts aren't as valuable as second half timeouts. So
right on.
I admire if you think that you can overturn this, and I think especially, I don't blame the refs for not being so good in the playoffs. I maybe blame the reffing union, because I don't think you should be splitting up these reffing teams. And I know the reason is, and everyone, it's funny. One of the biggest things everyone says is there's no accountability for refereeing. But truthfully, every mistake they make impacts their potential ability to have playoff games. So there's tons of accountability. The problem is it's so individualized that they're taking the best refs from different teams. Like when we go to the playoffs, we're not making all-star teams we're these are the teams that made it to the playoffs. We're not taking, we'll take Christian McCaffrey off the 49ers since they got eliminated and put him on the Eagles, right? Like we're not, like, the teams go through. So I don't understand why the reffing groups don't. And I think that's part of why that leads to so many mistakes, because you've had these referees who have been together in their groups for 4 months in terms of the entire season. And yet, as soon as we get to the most important games where that chemistry that's been worked on up to this point, it's at its best and its finest at the end of the regular season, gets totally erased because they just, who's the best graded individual refs, and we're putting them all together on the teams. And I think that's what causes so many referee issues in the playoffs, because they're not used to being together. They're still working out. They're almost in preseason form again. You're almost having to restart from zero. And because of that, teams will maybe be more willing to challenge in the playoffs, because they know that these reffing crews are maybe making say. So I definitely don't think the option will be no challenges. I think there's definitely going to be at least one challenge in the Super Bowl.
Zach, anything?
I'm going with the Eagles. Just, newer, younger head coach, a little on edge. We've seen some weird things from him from time to time. I could see him being a little anxious, a little angst kicking in.
They probably play
the
rock,
first
paper,
drive.
scissors on the sideline to decide if they're going to challenge or not. So you might get
Well, I was
right?
gonna say it's not Nick Sirianni's fault. This is Andy Reid's fault. Andy Reid fired Sirianni a few years ago. He's getting his revenge, but he learned how to manage a game from
Yeah.
Andy Reid. So I can
And
see. I see. your
I
point.
just see the lack of resume, or the Super Bowl resume for being the head coach, where
True.
I could see that biting him in the butt, where they pull the trigger. If there is a challenge, I think it'll be the Eagles, and I think they're the first ones to do it. I don't think there's anything more that needs to be said, or yeah.
Right on. Brian, last team to score: Eagles, Chiefs.
It's going to be the Eagles. If I'm picking the Eagles to win, it's going to be a close score, and it's going to be the Eagles with the last touchdown. So.
It does feel like this will be last score wins almost, like it'll be that close. So
yeah,
that makes
And
sense. Brian.
Zach, I know, is already saying it's going to be the Chiefs.
No, it'll be the Eagles, but that when they score to make it look respectable.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, love it. Love it.
I would say it's Chiefs just because of how strong Mahomes has shown he'll be in the fourth quarter, especially.
I'm thinking Chiefs are up by like 17 or 16, and then it's 8 to 10 point game because the Eagles scored with 1:45 left before missing the onside kick.
Oh, well, if they got
You see,
145 left, then Mahomes is going to go down and score again.
Or no, I'm saying that they're going near the ball. Yeah.
Well, it's funny. We talked about this on Speak On It. I think the Chiefs are going to be up after the first quarter, but we've also seen how dominant the Eagles are in the second quarter. So I think the Chiefs will actually be down at halftime and will need the second half comeback to come back. As Mahomes showed. I mean, they had a fourth quarter comeback the year they won the Super Bowl. And I think they put up 21 points in that fourth quarter. So we know how strong, as the game adjusts, Mahomes seems to get stronger. So I think they'll get the last points, whether they win or lose.
My philosophy there, though, is just, I think there's a lot. It's hard to see Mahomes as having a chip on his shoulder after everything he's already accomplished. But we kind of threw him out to the side. Oh, Justin Herbert. Oh, Josh Allen. All these other guys. It's their turn.
Yep.
Hey, not in Scott
Mahomes
Fishbowl. I took Mahomes 102 in Scott Fishbowl this year, so I was not fading him at all. That's the rest of you.
But for the most part, there's a lot of people out there, giving him a reason to feel a little slighted when, hey, he's been balling the whole time. And I think this is going to be the little cherry on top. He's going to go out there, ball out, pull his dick out, be like, hey, what up? It's big. I know. I'm awesome. I'm winning this game. Give me the MVP of this too.
Well, and I'm glad you just did that, because that's where I was going next. Who's winning the MVP? You're taking Patrick Mahomes. All right, that's fair. Kyle,
is it something like 31 of the Super Bowl MVPs have been quarterbacks? So like the smart money is to either take Mahomes or Hurts, whoever you think will win. I'm not that smart though, so I'm going to go Chris Jones. And back to my thought of it's going to be it'll be the under. They won't hit the over, and a good defensive performance. And if Chris Jones can get a sack against this offensive line, I think that really pushes them forward. If like as strong as this offensive line is, if Chris Jones can be the most dominant player in the game, I think that could go a long way.
Yeah,
it probably won't happen though. It'll give it to a quarterback.
I was going to
like
say it's been a few years since a defensive player.
Malcolm Smith with the Seahawks.
Yeah, I think so. And then you had Dexter Jackson, going back, back in 2002, I think it was. But
I feel like it happened a lot more in the 70s.
Yeah,
you had like the defensive.
My
players,
question to you is: you're taking a defensive lineman, and in order to do that, he's going to not just have one sack; he's going to have multiple sacks.
Probably 3 sacks last week against a worse offensive line, admittedly, than the Eagles.
Right, and I brought this up last night too. When you bring up Chris Jones and you think about Chris Jones as a what he did last week, that was his 14th playoff game and his first sack in 14 playoff games.
Now, they've also been moving him around these last couple of years. So the first few playoff games, he didn't have the advantage of moving as a defensive end. He was strictly defensive tackle. So they've over the last couple of years, it seems like Spagnuolo has really moved him around to be able to get those types of matchups. Although I think he got the sacks from the interior, so that
he did get him
that
from the interior
impact
last
it.
week. Yeah.
Stronger interior here again. They got
just
first team All-Pro center, not they had a backup center with the Bengals. So
yeah, the only thing that's making it hard for me to go with Chris Jones is, like I said, because he's even
he doesn't have QB as his position. That's really
well, not just QB, but because even on defense, you can get it as a defensive back. It's just it makes it that much harder to do it. As on the
you need the pick six probably as the defensive back, and it's like that one play can kind of make it. Whereas if Chris Jones gets 2 sacks, but he's constantly dominant, even if he doesn't get more than 2 sacks, it's still causing pressure. That might be enough. But truthfully, the smart money should be on the quarterbacks because that's almost always who they give it to.
Brian, who are you going with for your MVP?
Devontae Smith.
Wow.
I don't know why, but I feel like I said, the Chiefs are not very good against the pass. I think they'll concentrate most of the coverage towards A.J. Brown, and it's going to fall to one of the secondary receivers. And I would go with Devontae Smith over Goddard. So that's just my
wide receiver is the second most picked position in terms of Super Bowl MVPs, but it goes 31 quarterbacks, 8 wide receivers. So it's second most, but it's a big gap.
Yeah, and Chase brought this up last night. In order for a wide receiver to get it, you almost have to have 100+ yards, multiple touchdowns. But then at the same time, you got to look at it.
Didn't have 100 yards last year to get it.
Well, it's that very fair. But just in theory, as you're thinking about it and looking at it, but then at the same time, if a wide receiver has that, what did the actual quarterback actually do? What else did he do? Because that's given the same yardage to the quarterback, same touchdown throws.
You'd almost need to be like they're the dominant target, and they're drawing most of this quarterback's production. And the way Brian's talking, it sounds like he thinks Devontae Smith will have a better game than A.J. Brown. So that tracks.
That's very fair. Well, guys, I got one more question, and then we'll get out of here. Will there be a 2-point conversion, a successful 2-point conversion in this game? Brian.
I'm going to say yes, only because Sirianni loves a 2-point conversion.
I'm going to say no, and I think it's both of these teams have confidence that they can win the game. They don't need the 2-point conversion to win it. They can win it just on kicking and like scoring and kicking and just constantly doing your thing. I don't feel like either team feels like they have to force the issue. So I'm going to say no.
Zach?
I'm going to go with yes. And I'm going to go with, while I think both teams are confident, I think, there is such a thing as almost an overconfidence where you're trying to make a statement off the bat. And there's one team that's trying to make a statement, I think, a little bit more. And that's the ones that feel like, hey, we have something to prove. And that's the Eagles. And so that's where, I could see first, I think the Eagles, first time they score, they're going for 2, regardless of where the Chiefs are at in regards to their own points. So
let me throw this at you because I've thought about this, and we've called this game a couple different things. They call it Super Bowl 57. They've called it the Andy Reid Bowl. They've called it the Kelsey Bowl. Whatever. Jason Kelsey doesn't ever get to catch the ball.
Philly
special with a Jason Kelsey 2-point conversion.
Can centers be eligible receivers, though?
If he doesn't play center and they bring the backup center in and he plays, like a fullback or a,
Yeah, I don't see that happening.
I
don't see them putting in the backup center just to play a cute play. Like I think like maybe Jordan Mailata, just because he's so huge, you can't really overthrow him. So I like that idea, Jay. I think it's left tackle Mailata though that does it, just because he's like, if you get the ball in his hands, he's like such a huge tank that who's gonna stop him?
Yes.
The true MVP of this game is Mrs. Kelsey, regardless. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely, 100%. Well, guys, we're gonna get you out of here.
Did you want to hear our top props though? Because I think Brian.
Oh yes, I forgot. Here it is. This is my problem: is I have 2 different screens open, and I was looking at the Fantasy Alarm big board deal, and
luckily I was sticking on the show sheet, so we got you, Jay.
That's fine. Go ahead with your top props, Kyle.
So I ended up having 4. I noticed Brian picked 4 too. So I don't know. Brian, do you want to just alternate between our top?
No,
ones?
You're okay because a lot of mine already got mentioned anyway. So
okay. So do you want me to count up or count down?
I'm sorry.
Well, Jay or Zach, do you want me to count up or count down? Like, give my best one from the start, or
you save your best one for last.
Okay. So I think I've really got 5, and I would say number 5 kind of goes something Brian was saying, the secondary option for the Eagles. I noticed Dallas Goedert at 4.5 receptions. He had 5 catches in both playoff games, so that's really leaving that line tight. But I think he can hit that 4.5. Just thinking how much attention will be on the wide receiver specifically. Maybe Goddard sneaks through and catches enough. So that's probably my number 5. Number 4 and 3 are both kind of like 2-leg, like if you're gonna, because they're bets that correlate. So for instance, like Kelsey, if you're taking the over on 79.5 receiving yards, it makes sense to also take the over on 7.5 receptions. So I would say if you're going to, that's maybe a great way to parlay is just those combinations together, the receptions and the receiving yards over. And you could do that for any receiver. I just point out Kelsey because I think 79.5 yards, that seems really attainable to me. And then 7.5 catches. We saw him set the record for catches in a postseason game by a tight end with 14. So a lot of room to go for a 7.5. So I kind of like those. And this one I really liked, maybe a little less now that we know that seems like Juju Smith-Schuster is going to be okay. But Marquez Valdez-Scantling, it's the same thing. And that one might even be more obvious. 37.5 receiving yards, 2.5 catches. Feels like if he's hitting the over on one, he's hitting the over on two. Because if he's good, like the way he catches, if he catches 3 passes, that's probably 37.5 yards. Like that's probably 38, close to 40 yards on 3 catches. So that one I love to, again, combine it together, thinking that if you double your money essentially, because you'll probably hit both. And I really like that one for MVS just because the receiving yards is so low and so are the receptions that, and if they don't target him, he might not hit them. Like it seems like it'll be really clear he's either hitting both or hitting neither. So I like combining the two together. My 2 favorite props, though, one is Jalen Hurts touchdown. And looking at the difference between the anytime touchdown and the first touchdown, I think there's 2 players who are negative money for anytime touchdown, Kelsey and Hurts. And again, with Hurts, this is specifically rushing, or technically could be receiving as well, if we want to go Philly special, for instance. But the one bet that I like that's kind of a nice middle ground that still gives you plus money, but isn't as extreme as, say, first touchdown. I think for Jalen Hurts is right around plus 800 for first touchdown, and then it's like minus 150 for anytime touchdown. So can you get a middle ground? And I talked about this earlier, the Eagles, how strong they are in the second quarter. I think if Jalen Hurts gets a rushing touchdown at any point in this game, it's probably most likely to happen in the second quarter. So I love Jalen Hurts' first half touchdown. And I think it's still plus money. It's plus 250, but I feel like it gets, almost 4 times better odds than the anytime touchdown, but you're still in plus money with it. So I think it's a kind of a way to hedge that bet. It's not necessarily the first touchdown, because I think, again, second quarter, not first quarter. So I'm not as confident in that to say Jalen Hurts' first touchdown, but I find first half touchdown is a great way to hedge that. So that's my number 2 prop, actually, is Jalen Hurts' first half touchdown.
Hang on one second. So for your first half touchdown, Hurts is at a plus 195.
Plus 195. Okay, so yeah, I saw 250.
I'm looking on DK. So
I think I saw plus 250 on FanDuel, and then again,
okay.
we're actually sponsored by Underdog here. So Jordan, use the promo code GF2 to if you sign up for Underdog. So I don't know what Underdog has it at, but I figured it's probably around plus 200.
It's probably about the same. And then for the overall anytime, there's 3 that are negative money right now. It's Hurts, Sanders, and Kelsey.
Sanders, interesting, because there are so I don't think I really don't want to take Sanders touchdown on DK, but because I think on FanDuel he's in plus money. So again, shop your a line like that for Sanders that might anytime touchdown might vary. Like pick the right sites to make that bet on. I wouldn't make that bet on DraftKings because it's not
all 3 of them. All 3 of them are at plus 700 for first TD scored.
Oh, plus
Sanders,
okay,
Hurts.
First, right? Yes,
right.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. How about anytime?
They're the only 3. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is those are the only 3 players in negative
for anytime.
But
no one's going to be negative for first though. I think that one is the odds are strong. Sanders is plus 120 on FanDuel for the anytime touchdown. So again, like much rather make that bet on FanDuel than I would want to make that bet on DraftKings. Anyway, so my number 1 prop, and it's funny, this goes back to last week or 2 weeks ago. We did Chrome Dome for the championship rounds, and I was saying again a nice 2-legged parlay was Kenneth Gainwell rushing yards, which I think were set at like 18.5 or no, they might have been like 10.5, and then the combined rushing and receiving were like 18.5, and he smashed both of those like just on rushing alone. So that was a great combo bet that you could make. Now, the one thing I'll say is on FanDuel, I didn't actually have Gainwell with rushing props. But I still really like his rush and receiving yards combined at 32.5. And that's raised. I mean, that's almost double what it was 2 weeks ago when it was 18.5. But again, he could still get that 32.5 just on the ground alone. And you hedge a little bit by saying receiving plus rushing. So it gives you the out that if he catches a pass, he can make that up. So I like the multi-dimension of it. It's not just rushing. It's not just receiving. If you give yourself the both, you give yourself a lot of outs to be able to hit it. And like I said, 32.5 still seems super low. Like the rushing yards alone, that seems attainable. Like that'd be almost a better rush yard line that would make me think. But for a rush and receiving yard, that's still so low that's my number one pick, just like it was a couple weeks ago. So I'm in on Kenny Gainwell. I'm going to have to say all in because, again, 32.5 combined rushing receiving yards isn't that high, but that is my number one prop for the week.
Awesome. I will go ahead and tell you right now on Underdog, they've given you a boost on Jalen Hurts with a half total yard. So you can add that to just about every one of yours and get that. That's just a quick free money right there on Underdog. Brian, what do you got for your tops? For your top props?
I'm going to start with my least, with ones that I would do, but not my absolute top. So kind of ponying off Kyle there. I've got Miles Sanders under his rushing total, which I think was 62.5 or something like that. The Eagles have been very much spread the ball around to Gainwell. Boston Scott a little bit, Jalen Hurts some. So it's kind of hard for him some games to get that total. So I'm gonna go under his rushing total. I had Pacheco over, but then when we were going over our props, he's significantly like 4 to 5 yards higher, I think, from one place to another. So I'm gonna just leave that one alone.
Again, that's when you target it on the ones where the line's lower. Those are the sites you're willing to make that bet on. If it gets to over 50, those are the sites you ignore it on.
Yeah. So the one I've got on DraftKings was Pacheco at over 47.5. I was okay with that. Anything over 50 to me seems high. So I'm okay with Pacheco over 47.5.
And the Clyde Edwards-Helaire news of him potentially returning for the Super Bowl, that doesn't impact this.
I missed that. I'm sorry.
Because it looks like Clyde Edwards-Helaire might be active for the Super Bowl. So.
Oh well, okay. Well then I would just leave that totally alone then.
Yeah, that was one thing I was thinking is his presence might scare me off any running back lines for all three because it might just be a big committee.
Yeah, no, I didn't realize that CEH was he's been so far forgotten, but that he might even be
He's
active.
back.
So I would just leave that line alone.
The one thing with Pacheco that I might like is the rush and receive. Again, like we were saying with Gainwell combined, just because I bet it's not that much higher than the rushing yards because he hasn't really caught that many passes this year, but he's started to do it in the playoffs. And I think that's his experience with the team. He's gotten used to the passing game. Yeah. They trust him more on those passing downs. But then also, you don't want to telegraph, right? Like they're throwing him passes so that the defense is always guessing like this could be a pass, right? So I think if there's a combined line for Pacheco, that probably might be the better way to go about it. But they might not give you the combined line either.
That makes perfect sense, yeah. So needless to say, I've talked about them all game long or all show long that I prefer the secondary receivers. And I agree with Kyle on ponying up, like pairing stuff up. So I've got Devontae Smith over 62.5 receiving yards. Plus, he's got an anytime touchdown of, I think, plus 140. So I like that. And to go with him, I've also got Dallas Goedert in here. And I've got him over his receiving yards, which I think is 47.5. Mm-hmm. And then his anytime touchdown was 145. So the way I see the game to wrap it up is I see Jalen Hurts throwing 2 touchdown passes, one each to Devontae Smith and Goddard, rushing for 1, and the 4th touchdown goes to Miles Sanders. The Eagles win 28-24.
Nice. Zach, what do you got?
I've got a couple that you can do individually, but I also like to parlay them too. It depends on how aggressive you're trying to be. First off, one that I think, the odds aren't very great, but it looks like a for sure just easy sell. is Travis Kelce, 25 plus receiving each half, minus 145.
Love that.
Seems pretty, now that I like it so much and I feel so confident about it, you'll probably get 7 yards in the first half. But other than that, I like Travis Kelce 100 plus receiving yards on FanDuel. If you do his alternate receiving yards, it's plus 188 for him to go 100 plus. And I'm expecting a big day from Travis, so that's something I definitely could see feasible. Then I said 60 plus, and my 59.5 over on that is plus 255. My final score, my prediction there was 36-27. So, I got a couple points to spare there, but, trying to be a little conservative while being aggressive still. Just stick
aggressive
with
in that you're pushing it up like 8 points, 8.5 points.
But I'm saying on top of, yeah.
But you already said it. You think it's going over 60, so you may as well push it to that limit of where you think it's still.
Yeah, I don't
enough
need
of
to
a bonus,
push it,
but not too much.
Yeah, I don't need to push it to 63 and then be like, oh, those extra 3 points. But
yeah, one score, right? 8 points is one score. That's one full possession. That's a good mark.
No, I mean 8-9 is kind of that 8 to 10 range is where I'm anticipating, and that's where as well. Why not just take Chiefs one possession game? I was thinking about taking them 6.5, but minus 5.5, they're still plus 200. That way, say the extra point is missed or something happens, 2 field goals, whatever it is, they have that extra point cushion there. But also, I did want to say, if you parlay the Travis Kelce 100 plus, the Chiefs minus 5.5, and over 59.5, you get plus 2,078. Oh. And if you take out the Travis Kelce part and you just do Chiefs minus 5.5 over 59.5, you get plus 794. So, obviously there's safer ways you can do that. Closer to game time, I'll probably be doing some where I'm just doing, Travis Kelce over under on yards plus a Travis Kelce anytime touchdown with, Chiefs money line and just over on total points. I can't tell you off the top of my head what that'll be right now, but that's probably where I'll be looking. Travis Kelce props, Chiefs winning, and points over.
I like it. Yeah, the ones I will piggyback on what Liz Losa posted the other day, and her 5 props that pop more points in the second half than the first half. Hurts over 10.5 rushing attempts. Pacheco over 11.5 rushing attempts. Devontae Smith over 5.5 receptions, and Juju Smith-Schuster over 3.5 receptions. Look, everybody knows I like the overs. So when I saw Liz come out there with nothing but overs, I was like, oh yes, her and I are like 2 peas in a pod when it comes to that. So I do appreciate her for putting that out there and putting her name to it. That was pretty awesome. How we doing there, buddy?
What props does he like?
Yeah, right? He likes the Chiefs. He likes the Chiefs.
Look at him. He's like, I ain't talking to you fools.
I like Mahomes' hair. It looks very like mine.
Well, guys, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. But before we do, I wanted to remind everybody that the Dynasty Gambit will not be here next week. Gladys Tyler's new show is starting next week, next Thursday at 7 p.m. No particular order is going to be the name of that. So tune in for that at 7 p.m. Every other Thursday, and we will flip-flop with her. We'll have the Gambit one week, then her show, then the Gambit, then her show. So starting next week, the Gambit is going to go on every other week. So with that being said,
February 23rd is our next appearance.
February 23rd is our next. Okay, awesome. Brian, tell everybody where they can find you, what you got going this off season.
They can always find me at VandyGrad92 on Twitter. This all season, I'll be doing a podcast with for frequency's sake, doing news and notes for the NFL, but also fantasy baseball. And since I think this is the proper time that we go ahead and give some good credit and props out to Gladys that will be doing next week's show here on Thursday nights. So we're now officially Gladys and the Pips.
Kyle, tell them where they can find you, sir.
Well, it's funny because I'll be alternating every week with Gladys, not just on Thursdays, obviously going between in no particular order in the Dynasty Gambit, but also on Mondays. Gladys will host the 2-point conversion every 2 weeks, and then alternating those weeks, I'll be hosting a show called Press Coverage. We'll be in our 3rd season now, where I sit down one-on-one with different people from the fantasy football industry. Kind of got a little theme for my guests for this year, and you'll see the evolution of the questions a bit to match that theme this year. So first episode from season 3 of Press Coverage is February 20th. So that'll be Monday, I believe, at 8 p.m. Eastern. We used to have the Devi Royale as part of the Going for Two Live network, and I'm one of the trio of those co-hosts will be joining me for this episode of Press Coverage again on February 20th. So check that out again. Going for Two Live, subscribe on YouTube, and be sure to also check out the Going for Two Discord. We got tons of great conversations happening there, and it's free. I guess some companies will charge for access to their Discords. Ours just do not, and I guess as part of the result of that, we get quite popular. I think we're up to over 750 members on the Discord, and conversations always happening. And once again, our underdog sponsor, use the promo code GF2 to sign up. Maybe you're signing up with some props to do for the Super Bowl. And yeah, if you do that, you'll get double deposit match on up to $100. So whatever you decide to match in or deposit in as you sign up, again, for Underdog with the GF2 promo code, Underdog will give you basically double your money and give you everything you're depositing again, up to $100. So
yeah, Kyle,
you can bet.
It sounds like Gladys just doesn't want to work with you anymore. She just, you work one week and she'll work another week, completely opposite schedules. It's like it's almost like a husband and wife that just don't want to spend time together no more. It's like, go away, you go do your thing, I'll do my thing, and then we won't even see each other. That's kind of what it sounds like Gladys has done to you. She kicked you to the curb.
We were having a nice live stream. Why do you got to bring that up?
At least she was subtle about it.
That's right. Zach, tell everybody where they can find you. What's
well, on a brighter note, geez, no. You can find me on Twitter at the Big Pulaski. Otherwise, you can find me bouncing around on Going for Two on the Going for Two Discord. I'll be jumping in on that collab article we have going up on the Going for Two site. Other than that, every Sunday, it's a new show. Sunday nights. Next year you'll be able to find me Sunday morning for the pregame show, but Sunday night starting in the off season, actually starting, this Sunday after the Super Bowl, or we'll see on that. I'm still trying to decide if this week or next, but every Sunday night you'll be able to come on to the Going for Two network, any of our, whatever your preferred platform is, and you'll be able to come join me there for football, basketball, baseball. It'll be, covering week in review, but also the future week, covering fantasy, as well as just, news, headlines, trades, any of that, football, basketball, baseball.
Awesome. Yeah, I can't wait for that show to start Sunday nights. Gives you something to look forward to when I work on Sundays during the day, so it's like it gives you something to look forward to instead of just coming home and sitting there and twiddling your thumbs and that sort of thing. So, well, guys, I greatly appreciate it. You can find me in the Discord as well. You can find me on Twitter at FantasyJ77. One thing that Kyle did not mention, go to the website. Go to goingfor2.com. And there's articles on there. There's rankings. Everything you need to find is on there. Also, at the bottom right-hand corner of the website is where you will click the link for the free Discord. Jump in there. We talk trades. We talk just anything and everything in the Discord. We have some channels set up. We have the Gambit has their own channel. I believe Saturday Night 5 has their own channel in there. So, there's always somebody to talk to, always something going on. Everybody's around. Guys, I greatly appreciate it. I had fun. Kyle, for Brian, and for Zach, I'm Jay.